Hi guys, it's been a minute since I've recorded a video. Life has seemed to get super busy lately, as I'm sure it has for a lot of you. I have a dear friend who requested a 30-minute stretch video that does not have a lot of flows in it. So this is going to be slow moving. We're really going to sink into some of these stretches, and we're just going to hit a little bit of everything. We're going to do total body stretch. As always, if something doesn't feel right, don't force it. It might not be right for your body. If you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section, and I'll try to get back to it as soon as I can. I'll give you some alternatives if something doesn't feel right that we're doing today. With that being said, we are going to sit with our legs crossed if that's comfortable, and we're going to start with a seated side bend. So you're just going to place your right hand next to your waist, reach your left hand up. Think of bringing length to your spine, like you have a string pulling the top of your head up toward the ceiling. And then you'll reach up and over. So a gentle side bend. Make sure you're taking slow, controlled breaths. On your next inhale, we'll come back up, sitting nice and tall, and swap it out. Left hand down, right hand up, and over. Back to the middle. We're going to do that one more time. Left hand up and over. Next inhale, left hand down, right hand up and over. Feel free to close your eyes, check in with your body. See how you're feeling. Back to the middle. We're going to take our left hand, bring it across to your right knee. Look over your right shoulder. A little seated spinal twist. We're still sitting up nice and tall. We're not rounding our backs. If it feels hard to sit tall in this position, you might want to sit up on a block. Come back to the middle, right hand across to the left knee. Spinal twist, looking over your left shoulder. One more time to the right. And to the left. And back to the middle. We're gently going to round our backs, pulling chin to your chest, round your spine. And on your inhale, you're going to pull your chest through, look up at the ceiling, and then round the spine again, chin to the chest. And pull your chest through. Okay, let's make our way to tabletop. So shoulders over your wrists, hips over your knees. And we're going to do 3 cat-cows, and then we're going to go into a child's pose. So for cat-cow, we're going to inhale, pull our navel down to the mat to your comfort level. On your exhale, you're going to round your spine, chin to your chest. Next inhale, navel comes down. Exhale, round. One more of these. Inhale down. Exhale, round. And then we're going to gently set our hips back toward your heels and just gently rest your forehead down to the mat. If it reaches, if it doesn't, not a big deal. And just relax, sink into the mat. And then we'll walk our left hand to the left side of the mat, right hand on top. A little reach to the side. You should feel a nice stretch along the right side of your body. And then walk your right hand to the right side of the mat, left hand on top. Stretching the left side of the body. And back to the middle. We're going to end up coming all the way forward, and then come all the way down either into cobra, which is this position. If that feels like too much on your back too early on, you can come all the way down to your stomach, squeeze your glutes, gently lift your chest up. Don't go past the point if you're feeling any pain. We're just waking up the low back. You can put your hands back down. We're going to do that whole thing again. So pushing into your hands, keeping your knees down. We're going to press back up to tabletop. Make sure you're situated, shoulders over your wrists, hips over your knees. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Move through it. We're going to do it 3 times. Adding in any movements that feel good to your body. You might wiggle your hips side to side a little bit. I have one more of these. When you finish your 3rd cat, you're going to pull your hips back to your heels. Rest the forehead down to the mat for child's pose. Walk the left hand to the left side of the mat, right hand on top. We're adding in our reach. Right hand to the right side of the mat, left hand on top. We're coming back to the middle. We're going to press all the way forward, either into cobra, keeping yourself up with straight arms, still squeezing your glutes, or come all the way down to your stomach for a little bit gentler lift up of your chest, still keeping your glutes tight, still working the low back a little bit, working on some spine mobility, and then rest all the way back down. We're going to do a really gentle crossover kick behind the body. You're going to extend your left arm out to the side in line with your chest. You're going to bend your right knee, squeeze the glute, lift the right knee up off the ground, push into your right hand, and you're going to come across the body. If this is too much for your low back, you can just hang out in child's pose. It's a nice chest opener. It's also a good hip stretch. We'll come back to the middle and swap it out. Bend the left arm, extend the right arm, bend the left knee, squeeze the glute, lift it up, bring it across the body. And we're coming back to the middle. We're going to press all the way back up to tabletop. So tighten into your glutes and your core. We're going to push into the arms all the way up to tabletop. And we are going to tuck the toes under, press the hips up and back for downward facing dog. You want to make room for your spine so your spine is nice and tall. And then from here, we're just going to play around with straightening out your legs, pressing your heels to the mat or as close as you can get them to the mat. And we're just going to alternate side to side. It's called walking the dog. We're slowly going to walk our feet all the way up towards your hands, keeping as much of a bend in your knees as you need to. And then we're going to land in a forward fold. Now from here, if you're feeling especially stiff and tight, keep a block close by or two. And what you can do is you can adjust them to any height you want so that you really feel like you can rest into this forward fold. So I have these like on the highest setting. I'm going to have a micro bend in my knees, and I'm just going to drop down, and I'm going to rest my forearms down, and I'm just going to hang heavy. You don't need blocks. Sometimes it helps to relax into the shape though. So if I don't have the blocks, the forward fold will just kind of look like this. I'm just going to hang down. We're going to hang here for about 3 breaths. Find whatever position feels okay to you. We're going to come up for a halfway lift, so hands on blocks or on your shins. Crown of the head goes straight forward, your core is tight, spine is long. And then we're going to bend back down, forward fold. Let all your air out, big exhale. On your next inhale, we're going to roll up the spine, 1 vertebrae at a time, keeping your core really tight. Bringing your hands all the way overhead, squeeze your glutes, interlace your fingers. You can keep your pointer fingers and your thumbs out, and we'll do a really gentle side bend to the right. So my glutes are tight. Inhale, back up to center. Exhale, side bend to the left. Inhale, back up to center. Exhale, we're going to big arm circle all the way back down into a forward fold. We're going to do that all again. So find your setting that feels comfortable. We're going to hang out in a forward fold for 3 breaths, bending the knees as much as you need to. Next inhale, we're going to look up halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, roll all the way up the spine, 1 vertebrae at a time. Hands circle overhead, interlace your fingers. Tiny bend to the right from the waist. Inhale, back to center. Exhale to your left. Inhale, back to center. And we're going to stay standing for a little bit longer. You can keep your blocks close by if you have them. You don't need them. You can also stand by a chair. You can stand by a countertop if you don't want to focus on balance here and you really just want to get the stretch out of it. It's all about what your intention is for the day. So I'm just going to take 1 big step back with my right foot. And I'm in a high lunge. This is a great stretch for your back hip flexor. So if you have your arms free, you're going to bring them overhead. That'll enhance your stretch a little bit. If you want 1 hand down on a ledge or a chair, that's great too. Most of my weight's in my front heel. My front knee is over my ankle. It's not lunging out all the way over my toe. And my back hip flexor is getting a nice stretch as my arms just stay overhead. 3 deep breaths here. We're slowly, carefully going to come all the way down to your back knee. We're going to come all the way down, low lunge. This is where I'm going to use my blocks. I'm going to untuck my back toes so my foot's resting on the mat. I'm going to have the blocks framing out my front foot. And I'm still going to go for a hip flexor stretch here. So I'm pushing my hips forward, keeping my core tight, still feeling length in that back hip. You can bring your arms overhead if you want. One more inhale. On my exhale, my left elbow is going to hook on the inside of my left knee just to give myself a little leverage. My right hand is going to open out to the right side, opening up that right hip. And if you want, you can grab your back foot. You do not have to do that. It gets you a little bit more of a quadricep stretch. And I'm actually using this left hand to hang on to my block over here, so that helps with balance a little bit too. If you are holding on to your back foot, you can release it. We're going to pivot, so we're turning forward again with your chest and your shoulders. We're going to push back to a half split. So I'm going to slowly straighten out my front foot. So my toes are flexed up toward the ceiling. This might be it for you. You should feel this deep into the front hamstring here. And if you feel like you can lean forward a little bit more, you can absolutely lean forward over that foot. You just don't want to be rounding and dumping down into the spine. You want your spine nice and long. So some people feel it up here, and that's fine as long as you're feeling the stretch. Couple options, you can windshield wiper your toes. You can bring the pinky toe as far as you can toward the ground, and then you can bring your big toe as far as you can the other way. You can move back and forth through those. If you're working on a little bit of strength in this position, you can push down into your blocks. You can tighten into your core. You can see if you can hover your front heel off the mat for a little bit. That's kind of a tricky one to add in. You can also just hang out and sink into the stretch. Oh, and if you have your splits, you can actually fully extend. You can push that back foot back and you can come all the way down. But don't force it. We're going to hold this for 3 more breaths. Okay, so if you took the full splits, kind of make your way back here to a half split. We're going to go through that sequence one more time while we're down here on the knee. So starting with just the hip flexor stretch, arms overhead, push the hips forward. I like these slower stretch days because I feel like we can repeat some of the same stretches so we can get into them a little bit deeper. We're gonna rotate, so left hand on the inside of the left knee, right arm opens up toward the right side of the room. Grab your back toes if you want to, you do not have to. Slowly release your back foot, pivot back to center, straighten out your front foot, half split. You can windshield wiper the toes, go into the full splits, or just hang out. And then we're going to rebend into your front knee. You're going to tuck under on your back toes, and then we're slowly going to come all the way back up into a high lunge. One more time, holding this one. Arms overhead or hanging onto a chair. And you can step together to the top of the mat. Kind of shake it out a little bit. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So the right foot's in front, big step back, left foot's behind. High lunge with your right foot in front, arms overhead. Front knee is over the ankle. We're slowly going to melt down into the mat. Sink down nice and gentle. Back knee touches the ground. Untuck the back toes. Keep your hip flexor stretch here. Arms can go overhead. You can also add a little chest opener if you want. That would be putting hands behind the head and kind of opening up, squeezing your shoulder blades, looking up at the ceiling. I like to give options, but you know how your body's feeling. Okay, we're going to open it up now to the left. So your right elbow hooks the inside, your left thigh, left hand extends behind you, just opens up this left hip flexor a little bit more. You can also grab your back foot if you feel comfortable with that. Feels good. Slowly release that back foot, pivot forward, straighten out your front foot, flex your toes, find a position that works for you in this half split. So you can hang out, you can windshield wiper your front toes side to side. You can Tighten into the core and the hip flexor, and you can lift the front foot off the mat. You can also sink a little bit lower and go into your full splits, which this isn't my most flexible side. Slowly make your way back up to your hip flexor stretch. We're going to go through this one more time on this side. Bend into the front knee. Make sure you're feeling the length right here, not any pinching in your low back. If you are, you may need to tuck your core in a little bit more and push forward without having any kind of back bend at all. We'll take the right elbow on the inside of your right leg. Open up that left one. Grab the toes if you want. Back to the front of the room. Straighten out your front leg. And find your half splits or your full splits. We'll make our way back to the half splits. If you took the full splits, tuck your back toes under and then slowly push all the way up for your high lunge. Arms can be overhead or hanging on to something. We'll step together to the top of the mat and shake it out a little bit. All right, we are going to make our way back down to the mat, which will really slow things down. I'm going to have you guys reach overhead one last time, big arm circle, all the way down to the mat. Micro bend in the knees if you need it. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands down, big step back, high plank. I promise this is as flowy as we will get. You're going to drop down to your knees. We're going to push your hips back, child's pose. Sink all the way back there. And then we're going to thread the needle while we're back here. So we'll slide your right arm underneath your left. Rest your right ear to the mat if you can. If not, no worries. And swap it out, right hand forward, left hand slides under, left ear to the mat. Back to the middle, however you want to get there. We're going to end up grabbing a seat. So I'm just going to crisscross my ankles, sit back. That might not be feasible for you, that's okay. We're going to meet in a seat. Did not mean to rhyme that. Extend your right leg straight out. Your left foot is going to go up and across. And we're going to do a seated spinal twist here. So left hand can just rest by your waist here. Right elbow is going to come across the outside of your left knee. And then you're gently going to look over your left shoulder. If you want to try, you do not have to force this. Your straight leg here, your right leg, can bend for a little bit more of an intense hip stretch. Again, might not be available. Keep it straight if that's the case for you. Spine should be long. You don't want to feel like you're crouched in here. You want to be nice and open. And then we're going to re-straighten out that right leg if you bent it. Bring the left foot down. Take the right leg up and over the left. Twist to your right. Left elbow hooks on the outside of the right leg. Look over your right shoulder. Absolutely, you can bend the left leg if you would like to. Add a little extra hip stretch. One more deep breath, and then we'll make our way back to the center. And we haven't done a whole lot for our inner thighs, so we're just going to hang out in a frogger for a little bit. So you're going to come to your knees. You're going to walk them as wide as you feel comfortable. You can come down to your forearms. You can sink in here and just hang out. You can rock your hips gently back and forth. You can also, I do these with golfers that I train quite a bit. You can keep your forearm down. You can work a little bit on your thoracic spine mobility by bringing your right shoulder up toward the ceiling. Don't force it though. You can look up at the ceiling. Shouldn't feel any pressure in the low back. It should be more pulling kind of here around the rib cage a little bit. You're using those muscles to rotate. And you could alternate shoulder to the ceiling on both sides. Or like I said, you can just hang out. If you have your center splits and want to work on those, this is a good time to do that as well. I do not have my center splits. This is plenty. Eventually, we're going to meet on our backs. Take your time getting there. We're going to go into 3 hip bridges. So you're going to tighten into your glutes, you're going to tighten into your core, and you're going to push into your heels. Lift your hips up as high as they go. Don't force your low back to arch. Just really use the core, hamstrings, and glutes. And then you're going to come down nice and controlled. We're going to do that 2 more times. Press the hips up. Lower them down. 1 more time. Hips up. Down. Arms are going to spread out to a T, meaning they're in line with your chest. Feet are going to walk to the outer edges of the mat. You can let them fall in so they're going to cave in. Knees can touch. Hang out a second. Sometimes that in of itself is like a good stretch on the hips. And then eventually we're going to let both knees fall the same direction. So both knees are going to fall to the left. I'm keeping my shoulder blades glued to the ground. So I'm getting a nice stretch along my right low back all the way across the hip and the glute area. Then I'm going to move and rotate the knees to the right. Back to the left. To the right. To the middle. You can extend your left leg down. You can hug your right knee to your chest. Let your low back sink to the ground. Swap it out, left knee to the chest. Extend both legs out. We're going to hang out in Shavasana so you can let your feet fall open. If this doesn't feel comfortable on your low back, you can put blocks underneath your knees. That will elevate your hips a little bit to keep your spine more neutral. So you can try that. You can also just bend into the knees and hang out like this. But I'm going to leave you in a couple minutes of silence. You can just sink into the mat, completely relax your body, and focus on your breathing. You can start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. If you have more time, you can hang out here longer. I highly suggest that. You can go ahead and bend your knees, turn over to a side, hang out as long as you want, and we'll slowly press our way back up and meet in the middle of your mat in easy pose. Thank you for stretching with me today. Comment if you have any requests for another video. Other than that, namaste, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.